Birthday Yahawah, birthday Yahawashi, birthday Yahawah, birthday Yahawashi, birthday Yahawah, birthday Yahawashi, KAL HALAL YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM YAHAWAH. This is another digital epistle to the 12 tribes of Israel. Double honors to the elders and apostles, the GMS who've been laboring in this truth, honor to any brother pushing on life doctrine, and honor to any brothers, who believe in life doctrine, Revelations 13:13. He doth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men.
Fucking wild. About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon, and one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you gotta come in and talk to me a second." He says, "We've made the decision, we're going to war with Iraq." I said, "We're going to war with Iraq? Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we got a good military and we can take down governments." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, "I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran."
It's like insane that this was just said. How do they not talk about that every day?
Talk to me a second.
They're just able to gloss over their mistakes. All this not talked about every day.
Do you see a replay of what happened in the lead up to the war with Iraq? The allegations of the weapons of mass destruction, the media leaping on to the bandwagon?
About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me, and one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, No. He says, "We've made the decision, we're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq? Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting some..."
This man don't know what else to do but go to war, man. This Esau.
To Al-Qaeda? He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They've just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only..."
We got a good military, we can take down governments.
"We have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years."
So conversations with the Edomites. Hey, yo, we still going to war with Iraq? We ain't got no other reason to. Here's a plan to take down some more.
Starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran. This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq.
My fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger.
And then Syria.
We had a chance to talk about a wide range of international issues, including the situation in Syria. And I have to say that all of us who've been seeing the terrible pictures coming out of Syria and Homs recently recognize it is absolutely imperative for the international community to rally and send a clear message to President Assad that it is time for a transition, it is time for that regime to move on, and it is time to stop the killing of Syrian citizens by their own government.
Lebanon.
They both had different reasons, the State Department and the White House, for wanting Israel to do it, encouraging them to do it, supporting them. Our Air Force worked very closely with the Israeli Air Force for months before this, not necessarily with a deadline, knowing when it would happen. It was always going to be whenever there was an incident, they would take advantage of an incident. The word I used was fortunate timing, when the Hezbollah grabbed some of the Israeli soldiers in early July. That was then a pretext, I think that's the only word, for a major offensive that had been in the works a long time.
Libya.
Today we can definitively say that the Gaddafi regime has come to an end. The last major regime strongholds have fallen. The new government is consolidating the control over the country, and one of the world's longest-serving dictators is no more.
Somalia.
Well, violence isn't only on the rise in Afghanistan. In fact, it looks like America's shadow wars have now increased by one. Drone strikes have long been reported in Pakistan and Yemen, but now there's news that a week ago, a U.S. drone aircraft fired on 2 leaders of the Somalian organization Al-Shabaab.
Sudan.
President Obama is sending 100 combat-equipped troops to Central Africa to advise local forces on getting rid of one of the continent's most vicious operatives, Joseph Kony, the head of the Lord's Resistance Army, a group responsible for atrocities across the region. It's the first open deployment of U.S. ground combat power to Africa since the Black Hawk Down incident in Somalia in the 1990s that killed 18 troops. U.S. troops may wind up now in Uganda, South Sudan, the Central African Republic, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. It's part of a growing military effort to engage in Africa.
Finishing off Iran. I said, is it classified? He said, yes, sir. I said, well, don't show it to me. And I saw him a year or so ago, and I said, you remember that? He said, sir, I didn't show you that memo. I didn't show it to you.
I'm sorry, what did you say his name was?
I'm not going to give you his name.
So go through the countries again.
Well, starting with Iraq, then Syria and Lebanon, then Libya, then Somalia and Sudan, and then back to Iran.
We've never finished the investigation of 9/11 and whether the administration actually misused the intelligence information it had. The evidence seems pretty clear to me. I've seen that for a long time.
Man, that's the bloody man. Revelation 13. Revelations 13. And I stood upon the sands of the sea, the sea being the people and the nations. I saw a beast rising out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And upon his horns, 10 crowns, and upon his heads, the name of blasphemy. And the beast, which I saw, was like unto a leopard, the Greeks. And his feet were as a bear, and his mouth were as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat a great authority. The dragon gave him his power and his seat. You have that great power through the military, man. His mouth as a lion. And and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound were healed, and all the earth wondered after the beast. Because the Roman Empire fell. The Roman Empire fell. But resurrected with the the Roman Empire. And now we see they revitalize that through the American, the NATO, the Greco-Roman system, the NATO European, system, you know, and they worshipped the dragon, which gave power onto the beast, and they worshipped the American military, which gave power onto, to the NATO American system, and they worshipped the beast, saying, who was like unto him, who was like unto the beast, is able to make war with him. We'll go Iran. 7 more countries later. We ain't got anything else to do. We could just destroy country. We could just bomb. That's the mindset of the Edomite, man, and the heathen confederate with Esau. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and the power was given unto him to continue 42 months, and he opened his mouth in blasphemy against the power to get to blaspheme the name, the tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven, man. So they're blaspheming the name of the Lord, BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI, his name. They changed the name of Yahawah, YAHAWASHI, You're saying, oh, that's why you gotta say, on some videos I'll say, I'll slowly break it down. Yahawah, who they ignorantly call God, and Yahawashi, who they ignorantly call, Jesus, man. And that's even a blasphemy to say, man. Let's try to avoid using those words as much as you can, unless it's in context, or you're around the heathen, They changed the people of the Israelites, man, their tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. They painted all the angels white, man. Gave all the angels leprosy in their skin, in their hair, and it was given unto him to make war with the saints, man. And go look, man. Even though Esau can destroy these nations, man, can he completely subdue these people? No, man, because nobody could take more than prophecy, more than what the Lord giveth, man. Look how many empires Elon beat, man. He'd be hurt, man. Esau really thought he could really take down all the nations. He could really just, like he did Jake. Man, but that was all prophecy, man. Now it's the Lord's time. He's putting hoods back into these nations, y'all, to take down America. And to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And all power was given. And power was given him over all kindreds, tongues, and nations. And all that dwell upon earth shall worship him, whose name are not written in the book of life, slain from the foundation of the earth, man. So if you're not the elect, man, you're going to worship America, the system. A lot of these people, man, a lot of these personalities, people got all these great philosophies, man. But they're still wandering after the beast, man. They're thinking that their money got them, America got them. They could use the currency, go live in another country, they can go build, man. You're wandering after the beast, man. Except the elect. If any man have an ear, let him hear, man. He that leadeth in captivity shall go into captivity. He that killed with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints.
It's not possible to choose between, are we going to face Russia or are we going to face China? The United States and the West are facing both Russia and China. Both powers disagree with the way the world is structured today. Both powers want to split it apart. They want to go back to an earlier era of power politics, of 19th century each country has its sphere of influence, and great powers will joust, argue, and fight at the boundaries. We've worked assiduously through 2 world wars and the Cold War and the post-Cold War to put together a system in which we encourage the peaceful settlement of disputes. We have the United Nations international law. All of that is challenged by Russia and China.
Ezekiel 28, um, 2. O son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, talking about Russia, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, prophesy against him, and say, thus saith the Lord Yahawah, BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. I will I will I will turn thee back, man. So he will put the spirit of the of of the um Soviet Union back into Russia. You know, put that warlike spirit back into them, man. Man, we see it, man. These people are ready, man. Um, I will put hooks in their face. I will put hooks in thy jaws. You know, like an animal, man. I'll put hooks in thy jaws. And I will bring thee forth all thine armies, thine horses, you know, military vehicles, you know, horsemen, all, all of them clothed in all sorts of armor, with great company, bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, they went to war with Iran, Ethiopia, Libya, with them, all of them with shield and helmets. Gomer and all of his bands, of the house of Togomar, and in the north quarters, and all of his bands with thee. Be be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou all thy companies are assembled upon thee, and be thy guard unto thee. So, you know, the Russians, man, Cogmen, who are in the land of Japheth, man, and they're coming in the spirit of Japheth, man. So the feet of a bear, man, the end is gonna be of the Persians to meet. You know, so his ending, man, will be when the Soviets come to a guard onto all these nations. You know, when they come to, he's gonna be a guard onto Moab. You're not breaking these countries up, man. Isaiah 34:16. Seek ye out the book of the Lord Yahweh and read. None of these shall fail, none shall want her mate. For my mouth shall see, for my mouth hath commanded it. His spirit hath gathered them. And we see, man, none of these prophecies are failing, man. With China and Russia are not breaking up, man. They were enemies, man. But economic policy, you know, of America pushed them together, man. Isaiah 13:17. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, Russia, man, which shall not regard silver or gold, man. They shall not delight in it, man. They don't care about money.
I got called in by an officer on the Joint Staff who told me that he said, you know, we're going to invade Iraq. I said, but why? And he said, I don't know. He said, I guess because we don't know what else to do.
I don't know, I guess.
But in fact, the why of it went back a decade, to the spring of 1991. It went back to the argument inside the Republican Party about whether or not the Gulf War should have ended with the capture of Baghdad and the overthrow of Saddam Hussein. And in 1991, when I talked to Secretary Wolfowitz, you know, he said, we didn't get rid of Saddam Hussein, and we should have. He said, we've only got 5 or 10 years to clean up the Middle East. These old Soviet surrogate regimes like Syria and Iraq, get rid of them before the next superpower comes along that challenges.
See, so the Lord will bringing the Medes back into that Soviet spirit, man. So all this havoc, all this money that the small hats printed for themselves in the banking, the little hats printed for themselves, you know, through the war. You know, through the debt, through the military-industrial complex, man. Now America done built up all their enemies, left so much weapon behind all their enemies, man. And the Soviets aren't coming, man. And God, man, may God coming back in their spirit, man. Gonna be a guard onto all these nations, man. They're gonna be a guard onto all these.
Didn't foresee that we'd actually be using force aggressively to change regimes, and it appeared full-blown after 9/11. And somehow, in the minds of the American people, the attack run by Osama bin Laden, based out of Afghanistan, became
144,000 views.
part of Saddam Hussein, and to retaliate and make sure that, and it was phrased in many different ways. There was effort in the intelligence community to prove that Saddam Hussein had somehow been connected to the strikes in New York and against the Pentagon. And then there was the idea that, well, but he might have some weapons of mass destruction, biological, chemical, nuclear weapons that he could give to terrorists, despite the fact that Saddam Hussein and Al-Qaeda couldn't have been further apart in terms of working together as allies. Now, if you put them under enough pressure, maybe, you know, they would team up against the United States, but we created that pressure against Saddam Hussein for our own reasons. What were those reasons?
And they created that pressure that all these nations are gonna come together, man. That Magog's gonna be a guard onto, man, to come against America, man, and send them nukes.
We've never really heard. There was no single reason. There was some weapons of mass destruction possibly that were still there, but we'd had 10 years for the UN Special Commission. We'd had the strikes, Operation Desert Fox in December of '98, taking out all the sites that we knew about then through intelligence. Maybe there was some unaccounted for scuds that they said had been fired in training. Maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe there was some material that you could, culture material that you could grow bioweapons in, but there wasn't much that I knew of. And I'd been reading all the intelligence until I retired. So I began to see that, and I thought back to the conversation with Wolfowitz, and I thought what I'd been told inside the Pentagon, and I began to smell something that didn't smell right.
In contrast, Russian elections are rigged. Political opponents are imprisoned or otherwise eliminated from participating in the electoral process. The result is an absence of checks and balances in Russia and the decision of one man to launch a wholly unjustified and brutal invasion of of Ukraine. Iraq, anyway. 75.
I will send him against a hypocritical nation, and against the people of my wrath, I will give him a charge to take the spoil, to take the prey, and to tread down like the mire of the streets. You know, and this was really talking about, Jake, to the heathen. He set us up against a hypocritical nation. But now that hypocritical nation that we've been sent to, it's being sent up, We're seeing that now that hypocritical nation being exposed by the other nations. You know, this image says over the past 3 decades, the United States, led by Obama, George Bush, Barack Obama, and then Bill Clinton, has been responsible for more than 23 wars and more than 11 million innocent people have been officially killed. During Obama's presidency, I think 26,000 bombs were dropped. Drone strikes. Yeah, that's a big hole, man. U.S. forces dropped more than 3,000 bombs in 2006. And then 2000. Taking the grand total of strikes for the year to at least 26,171. Mhm. Um, Maccabees 1, 2, and made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, and so much that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. He gathered um he gathered a mighty strong host, mighty strong army, and ruled over the countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. And after these things, you know, and this is you know, and this was Alexander the Great, you know, in the Apocrypha, in the Greek Empire, man, we see, man, this is the rebirth of the Greco-Roman system. Man, we see the same thing happen, man. They were taking spoils from many nations to become tribute onto him, and his hearts become very lifted up. You know? And they coming with the Antiochus spirit, man. Because at least Alexander, man, evils multiplied, man, much after, man, after he fell sick, man. At least Alexander dealt with the Israelites with some level of righteousness, man. But because he knew his prophecy, but that's for a different time. Daniel 8:25, man. And through his policy, also he caused craft to prosper in his hands, and he magnified himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, and shall be broken without hands. You know? Alexander the Great, man. A lot, a lot of Israelites, to serve in the army and worship their Lord, and because of the prophecy, man. Man, people always knew, man. You had to come to Jake for the prophets, man. You know, even, but after his son died, after he died, man, those 4 generals, man, looking to spread through the earth. So prophecy could continue, man. Revelations 12:12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them, and woe the inhabitants of the earth, and the seas. For the devil is come down to you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And that's what we see, man. This man has such a short time to get run through these nations. That's really we see, man. We see they love Afghanistan. They'll come back to Afghanistan in a few years. That's how much of a disaster to spend more trillions of dollars on nonsense. Just like how they doubled back to Iran. Psalms 64:8. So they shall make their own tongue fall upon themselves, and all that see it shall flee. Revelations 13:11. I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb. With that democracy. And he had two lambs like that democracy and Democrat, man. But he spaketh as a dragon. He exercises all the power of the first beast, man. That Greco-Roman spirit of taking many nations, spoils of many nations and kings and everyone paying tribute, and the Edomite's heart being lifted up. He exercises all that and causes the earth in which that dwell, all the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed, man. So you're worshiping the Greco system, that Greco-Roman system that was healed, man, but that was resurrected, man, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had the power to do in sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast which had a wound by a sword and did live. And that's what the word NATO means birth. The Renaissance, the rebirth. Renato, rebirth. So it's born, man. That did live, man. And he had the power to give life onto the image of the beast, and the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast, that should be killed. And if you didn't worship the image of the beast, if you didn't accept the dollar, if you didn't accept the philosophies, they'll come in and they'll remove your government, man. If you don't sign away all your resources, give everything to deal with that usury. You didn't worship the image. You would be killed. They kill Gaddafi, man, for not worshiping. You know, they'll support you when you're with the agenda, when you're against the agenda, and they take you out, man. And he causes all, both small and great, who wet who wet their tongues like a sword, and bend their bows to shoot them. Hide Psalms 24:2 or 64:2. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the iniquity, from the insurrection of workers of iniquity, who wet their tongues like a sword, who bend their bows and shoot their arrows, even bitter words. Who because we're seeing, man, especially with their tongues, man, they and they sharpen their tongues like swords, because man, they prepare these words, man, to justify their violence, man. Their words are just as violence, man. and they may shoot at the they may shoot in secret at the perfect man, at the Israelites, man, and even at these I mean, these heathen are falling more like an Abrahamic structure, rejecting the usury, man, and they'll topple their government, man. We see all these heathen nations are, when they push back from America, man, they're trying to go back to a former way and older path, man. And suddenly they shoot at him and fear not. They encourage themselves in an evil manner. They commune of laying snares privately. They say, who shall see them? They search out iniquities, and they accomplish diligent search, both inward thought of every one of them, and the heart is deep. But BAHASHAM YAHAWASHI shall shoot at them with an arrow, and suddenly shall they be wounded. So they shall make their tongues fall upon themselves. All that see it shall flee away. They gonna catch them nuclear. They gonna catch some missiles, man. They gonna catch them arrows, man. They launch their lives as arrows, man. So they gonna catch them. Ye, John 8:44. Ye are the father, ye are of your fathers, the devils, and the lust of your fathers ye do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. He speaketh a lie. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of himself, for he is a liar and the father of it. How should I talking to the wicked Pharisees, man? You are your father, the devil. You are of Esau. And you do the lust of your father, man. You're doing the lust of Esau. And he was the murderer from the beginning, man, because he was Cain in the beginning. And he abode not in truth. So the servant, we're going to Nakash, going into witchcraft, going in, because his tongue is that witchcraft, man. That deception, man. He put an enchantment, man. There's no truth in him, man. There's no truth in Esau, man. When he speaketh the lie, he speaketh of himself, man, because he's the father of lies, man. He's the originator of lies, man. If you created something, or you were really great at something, in ancient time they called you the father, man, of it, man. You're the father of these lies. He's speaking of himself, man. He's lying, man. For he is a liar, and he is the father of it. So we see, man, we even see these heathen like Obama, man. He's of the father, the devil.
How come? It's illegal, they say. It's against regulation. Calm down. We have to. All right. If you don't take it off before you come in the theater, you don't get in the theater. This is the way they do this thing. They said the afro was legal. Am I right or wrong? That's right. That's what they said. It was legal. We can sport an afro. All right. This man, there's a lot of brothers here. This man here's got an afro. This is an afro right here. Or somewhat of an afro. It's not big, no. But they want us to wear skin head. What they call it? High and tight. High and tight. It's not my culture. Am I right or wrong? They come over here. They get, all right, a Vietnamese girl. She called me a nigger. A Vietnamese girl. I know it's not part of their language. Can't nobody tell me that's part of their language. But I'm going to go over here. The beast, you know that. See, we go over here. We fight. Okay, we fight to defend the water we drink, the land we grow our food on, and our way of culture. We also fight to protect Rockefeller's foundations. We fight to protect J.P. Kennedy's foundation. All these different kind of foundations that the black man can't partake of, you understand? And then we go back. We're continuously harassed. It's not necessary. This ain't what we heard. This is what we know. See, we've seen it from the bird's eye point of view. We are the people here now, see. We see it now. This ain't what we heard,
I know y'all haven't been out in the Ville. Now, just like you said,
These Oriental people don't know how to where the word nigga came from or nothing. They have to learn how to speak it. You go out there in that Ville. The first time I come over here, I goes out in the Ville, I falls into one of these places, and I'm thrown out because I'm black, you know? Because I'm black. They don't like us. They say we start trouble. Now who done put this stuff in their mind? You know what I mean? The beasts came over here and brainwashed these people. We get out here and try to do our thing, and they wants to downrate us. Right on. Because we're black. Because the beasts came over here and told them that we ain't nothing but trouble. Right because we got a strong rapper and they scared we're going to take the women away from them. Right. You know what I mean? Well, wait a minute. Let me tell you something about down south. Let's say down here in July of this year right here, when the so-called the beasts, this is what we call them because they act savage and barbarous like animals.
Yeah, and he knew he dealing with the beast, man. See, man, whether he got the gospel or not, man, Jake was dealing with some for. You know, the zeal was stronger, man. The zeal was over there, man. Yeah, man, and he knows more than Jake now. No, he fighting for the Rockefeller Foundation, man. Do Jake in the military right now know that? Ecclesiastes 10:7. I have seen servants upon horses and princes walking as servants upon the earth, man. Now, that's Jake, man. And those princes walking upon the earth with those brothers, man, in the military, man. Talking about how, man, they've been made a proverb and byword everywhere, man. And the servants upon horses, man, like Amalek, man, bower, which means servant, man. And now shall become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all the nations, whether the Lord Yahweh send the, Deuteronomy 20:37, man. So it don't matter if you're in America. It don't matter if you're in Thailand. It's gonna follow you, man, because the Lord put the curses on you, man. That you that man, you don't got nothing else but to turn to the Lord, man. That's it. Joel 3. Joel 3:9. Proclaim ye this to the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, shall all let all the men of war draw near, let them come up, and beat your pruning hooks, your pruning shares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears, and let the weak say, I am strong. And these Gentiles had to prepare for war, man. Go look at Elon. How many empire might have fought like 7 men? Had to fight off America. Had to fight off the Russians. Well, especially World War III, man. Nations that you would never thought were nuclear capable. Now they're all gonna have nukes pointed towards Babylon the Great, man. You may have not thought 40 years ago, 30 years ago, these countries could have been nuclear capable. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about thither, cause all the mighty ones to come down, O Yahweh. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Yahweh Shaphat, Yahweh's judgment, for there will sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full, the fat is overflowed, the wickedness is great. The multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of Yahweh is near, for the valley of decision. The sun and the moon shall be darkened, man, covered up by, by nuclear effects of the nukes. And the sun, the stars shall withdraw their shine. you know. So much nuclear ash, man, he's gonna be covered up. And the Lord Yahweh also shall roar out Zion, utter his voice from Jerusalem, the heavens and the earth shall shake, you know. Nuclear quakes, but the Lord will Yahweh will be the hope for his people and the strength of the children of Israel. So shall ye know that I am the Lord Yahweh, your power dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain. Then shall Jerusalem be holy. There shall be no stranger pass through her anymore. I hope this lesson was edifying. Brakte how, Brakte how, Shai, Brakte how, Brakte how, Shai, Brakte how, Brakte how, Shai.